drawn across the 49th parallel. Cut all diplomatic ties as we expel all American dignitaries and issue one nationwide travel advisory for any others left inside. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The burnout shells of southbound traffic lane strewn along the cold stretch of the interstate, still visible below the chart remains Pax Americana place. Those stupid fucking laser pucks were just the start. And why do they stand 6 full cubits in a span? A shepherd slinging 5 stones in our hand. The battle of 1812 lives in our hearts. Care if we're destroyed, we'll never capitulate. We'll take the whole fucking world down with us in flames. Just a speculative fiction, no cause for alarm. We've got a good 50 years left till united we stand. Murals on West Broadway finally fade, and we wave goodbye to your sad childish refrains. Exchange for other stupid lullabies, but you can have my guns when you pry them from my cold dead hands. Yeah! Just a speculative fiction.
John Danek, welcome to Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propagandhi.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. Big fan of the pod.
Yes, awesome. Well, John, I'm like getting to know your work as well, and I've been diving into all the stuff that you do in your, variety of projects. Why don't you go ahead and spend a moment and introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners out there so they know a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is John Danek. I'm a writer and senior web engineer for the Hard Times and Hard Drive. It's an online satire comedy website, and we are commonly referred to as the Onion of punk rock.
Yeah.
I'm also a former web engineer of Conan O'Brien's Team Coco. I did that for about 9 years. I'm also a musician, and I release music, kind of punk guitar-centric music under my last name, Danek. I also do electronic music under the name Infinighost.
Amazing. I know that you've also successfully published in McSweeney's as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, actually a bunch of other websites. There's McSweeney's, Pittsburgh Unfiltered, which is a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania centric humor site. I'm from there originally.
Cool.
And a couple other offshoots of the Hard Times that people in that kind of sphere have started on their own.
Wonderful. Yeah. And so I was looking through some of your headlines. You have so many things that you've been doing for the Hard Times. How long have you been with them, and kind of what do you like about working over at Hard Times?
So I started writing for them in 2017. I think I first discovered the website in 2016. And I never even attempted creative writing before discovering the Hard Times.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a thing that I saw online, and I was like so confused by it because I just didn't believe that there was a group of people who shared my sense of humor so perfectly. So whenever people started sharing their articles, I was like, I have to insert myself into this group of people. Like this is too accurate, too good. And I remember the article that did it. It was titled "Shoegaze Guitarist's Pedal Board Becomes Sentient and Demands Creative Control." And I was like, okay, all right, I have to apply for this. I have to get involved.
Yeah,
and I did. And I started writing in February 2017. And I've been addicted to pitching articles for them ever since.
Amazing.
Like, I wish I could slow down.
I'm looking at some of your headlines here. We got man rolls own cigarettes in order to save money and look like complete asshole. We've got aging metalhead feeling pathetic after hearing Dark Throne's Summer of the Diabolical Holocaust in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And we have got, if you scroll down just a little bit, every Propagandhi album ranked.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very recent one, and I personally was roasting you a little bit on social media just because I couldn't help myself. It was so provocative. Tell me about your experience of ranking every Propagandhi record for Hard Times.
Yeah, so the whole rankings thing is a relatively recent endeavor for the Hard Times, and Propagandhi is my second albums rank thing. The first one was the Mars Volta, who's also one of my favorite bands, and then second time around I did Propagandhi. And it's kind of an interesting thing where normally all of our articles are just purely shit talking, and these are like, the rankings are about 70% shit talking and 30% sincerity. So I would say that the actual numerical rankings are sincere to whoever's writing the article. And then the little blurbs about each are usually meant to just like piss off the fan base or satirize kind of the typical music journalist rankings and reviewings. That's kind of what I aim for whenever I do it. But yeah, that was a fun one, and it got quite a reaction. And not only were the band tagged a lot in the comments, but this podcast specifically, a lot of people were like, Greg we need to know his thoughts on this ranking.
Yeah. My big thing that I rolled it right in there with is how you listed Cut Into the Earth from Potemkin City Limits as a skip it, because I was livid, John. I was so offended.
Look, fair. And if I could do it again, I think I would switch all of the skip it songs except for I Want You to Want Me.
Right.
That one will stay my skip it permanently. But I don't know. I don't really skip things when I listen to music anymore. I tend to listen to an album front to back. So like when it came to picking the skip it's, I pretty much just judged it based on the opening 5 seconds of a song. So it's how much I like an opening riff.
Oh, gotcha.
And in doing that, I saw somewhere somebody commented like, yo, you were being way too harsh on the bassist songs. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, that's right. Like I didn't intend to do that. And I actually tend to really like the Todd songs because they're super heavy and have a different energy. Like Bringer of Greater Things is in my top 5 Propagandhi songs. Love that song. But then looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I did tend to pick those songs because they don't typically open with like the flashy guitar stuff that I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you skipped Cut Into the Earth, March of the Crabs.
I would change that one too.
I was shocked at your Humane Meat, the Flensing of Sand or Cat skip it as well.
That's
shocked.
I don't know. I don't know what it. Maybe it's just that there's a longer intro to that one.
Oh, is it the screaming with the bone saw?
Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah, and then the cognitive suicide skip on Failed States probably yielded a little bit of pushback as well, I'd imagine.
I think I saw 1 or 2 comments about that.
Yeah. What were some of your I mean, it must have been fun having like so much tension on the article as well. Like, what did you enjoy about it?
It is. It's sick. Like, I know I shouldn't read the comments, but anytime any article of mine comes out, like I'm just like sitting there scrolling and refreshing incessantly. The most common criticism of the list, I would say, was that supporting cast wasn't number 1. That seems to be the general if you had to pick an agreed upon favorite, it seems like, at least among the Hard Times and Propagandhi fan crossover, that's the number one. But whenever I do these lists or like kind of these fake reviews for Hard Times, I try to avoid learning what the agreed upon favorites are, because like I'm not intentionally trying to like make a list just to be contrarian. Like it's true to what I prefer, and I don't want to be influenced by just kind of going with what everybody else says.
Mm-hmm.
But really, if you look at the list, I don't think there's any criticism after like entry number 5.
Right.
Like they're all tied for me. And if I woke up today and had to do the list again, it would be in a pretty different order.
Interesting. Yeah, that's how it is for me too. It's always changing. Like whenever the reissue for Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes came out, I was listening to the way that Jason Livermore, who did the remaster for the new edition, some of the things that he changed and some of the ways that the guitars were a little different sounding, the drums sounded different. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is my favorite Propagandhi record. So like even I, who am one of those supporting cast, like hardcore diehards, was like, whoa, is Today's Empires my favorite record actually? And it just sounded like not as good as the other ones. Like, but a lot of people out there think that Potemkin City Limits is their favorite as well. And Potemkin City Limits has my favorite snare drum sound on any of their records. The snare drum on Potemkin City Limits does it for me in a way that no other drum record of theirs does. So that's like my favorite detail about Potemkin is the way the snare drum sounds. It just blows me away. Oh, totally. I agree. Yeah, it's funny how like a little quality like that can really change the experience of listening to music. And there have been probably no less than like 8 different articles that have been pitched within the Hard Times about snare sounds. One recently came out regarding Thursday's Understanding in a Car Crash, and it's like like the opening 2 snare hits of Understanding in a Car Crash inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like something very specific like that. And like there's that song by Is it Snapcase who have the fucking crazy snare? Oh yeah, Snapcase does, and they live where I live. I'm in Buffalo, so Snapcase hometown band. There we go. Yeah, I love living. I love living in Buffalo too, because I get to see Snapcase more than anybody on earth. Because every time they play in town, they play here a couple times a year, and they play nowhere else a couple times a year. So I see Snapcase all the time, comparatively. Oh, but that's awesome. It's so funny that you bring up that Understanding in a Car Crash, because the second you said that, I had a flashback to seeing the music video where they film it from above Tucker. So the music video for Understanding a Car Crash by Thursday, it literally looks down on Tucker as he does that opening 2 snare hits in the music video. So like that is seriously one of the most important details of that entire song, because it brings you right in. Oh, it's such like a little specific choice. It makes you wonder, like, was that always in the song? Was that a producer's suggestion? I don't know, but it's perfect. And I'm glad it's there. So John, how did you, what's your history? I know you play music, but like, tell me a little bit about your own performance, musical history, just across your life. Sure. So I started with piano in kindergarten, and in listening to a couple episodes of this and just in stories of my own life, I feel like I'm the only person who comes out of piano lessons with like a great story. And that I had a wonderful piano teacher. His name is Joe. I still keep in touch with him when I go back home to Pittsburgh. Like we get breakfast and we hang out. And like I didn't have the sort of, usually people have a cool older sibling or cousin or neighborhood kid who was like giving them punk albums and stuff. Like I didn't have that. I was a punk late bloomer. We'll get to that, but like I did have Joe who exposed me to like weird and cool music. But it wasn't until high school when I got into playing guitar, and that's when I started finding some punk music, mostly stuff that trickled through the mainstream or like video game soundtracks or like snowboarding and skateboarding videos. But then I went to college at Penn State, and when I went there, I wanted to get involved in the radio, and I got randomly assigned to the punk night. It was Thursday night. The show was called the Indy 500, but we were punk night at the Indy 500. Yes. And I had 2 co-hosts who like took me under their wing, Eddie Fraud and Cherry Darling. And they would just loan me their binders of CDs. Like it was just stuffed to the brim of like Fat Records and Epitaph. And they had like the little booklets with the CDs. And I remember like taking them back to my dorm room and flipping through and just like
all the stuff that I didn't even know existed, because like I would find like, I don't know, some 41 or like maybe a Bad Religion song and just kind of fixate on that when I was in high school. But now I had this like Rosetta Stone of the history of punk, and was just going through and loading it all onto my computer. But I only had an 80 gigabyte hard drive at the time. I remember this vividly. So I was I had like a scarcity mindset when it came to hard drive space. So like I wouldn't put full albums on. So and I remember flipping through and seeing Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes. And that was one that I took and I listened to it. And I took With Friends Like These, Who the Fuck Needs Cointelpro, Back to the Motor League, and Fuck the Border. I remember like those three songs were definitely on my college computer. And really it was off to the races from there regards to punk, but I was probably like 19 or 20.
Amazing. So was Empires your introduction to the band?
Yes.
Amazing.
And it was a slow trickle into the hardcore fandom that I have today. Like I loved those songs, and those would always be on like my workout playlists. And like over time I would find new songs like, oh, this is a great song too. But it really wasn't until the lead up to Victory Lap that I really became like a true Propagandhi fan. Yeah.
Amazing. Do you think that do you lean more towards the later years stuff as far as like your favorite stuff goes? Okay, yeah. Cool. Do you think that's because your first introduction was Empires instead of the first couple of records?
I think that was a huge part of it, but also before I became like a big punk fan, I was really into metal. So like ninth grade, it was like Metallica, Opeth, Megadeth. So like guitar wizardry was kind of what I focused on at the time. So the later stuff had much more of that for me than like How to Clean Everything and Less Talk, which now I appreciate as great albums, despite my write-ups in the rankings. Like, I ribbed them pretty brutally, but like, it's just meant to be a joke. Like, yeah, I'm glad that all these albums exist and I like them all. But I don't know that I would have become a diehard Propagandhi fan if they kind of stayed in the How to Clean Everything vein for their career.
Gotcha. I love that. What a cool origin story. You know, that's I always love finding a different story than somebody found the Fat Records comp. Do you know what I mean? Like I've heard I've heard the same origin story probably 80 times by now on the show, which is fine. That's great. I'm glad that those compilations were so effective in giving a lot of these bands like an actual career that had some longevity. But I love it when somebody's got a slightly different entry point into the band.
Oh, yeah. I was really discovering them and a lot of the classic 90s punk bands while DJing and playing them on the radio.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into some tunes here. What do you think?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you already mentioned your first selection. So I'm actually gonna switch it up a little bit here. I'm gonna go in the order that they appear on the record. So we're gonna start with a couple of tunes from Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes. You ranked Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes your second favorite Propagandhi record in the Hard Times article, and you kind of like a little bit summarized your time and place of the Empires LP. Do you have any like broad thoughts about like the album as a whole that kind of talks about like why it matters so much like within the context of your life?
I do think that when I first started listening to it, with the exception of like Rage Against the Machine, I would say this was the first kind of overtly political band that I really got into. And I liked the way that the sort of confrontational way that they talked about things made me like a little bit uncomfortable in a way that was like enticing to me. Like it was kind of like, whoa, interesting. There's a part of me that's not wanting to be told what to do, and there's another part of me that's like, oh, this is different. Like, there's nobody in my life who talks like this, and it was like fascinating and like kind of like when you see your first horror movie as a kid, like you like can't look away from it, and you kind of I went down the track of getting obsessed with horror movies, and I think it was a similar effect here. So, yeah, Today's Empires is kind of prototypical Propagandhi to me, and that's where it starts in my mind.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's dive into Back to the Motor League, your first selection here.
Yeah.
Why did you choose Back to the Motor League as one of your main songs to chat about for the podcast?
So, I mean, I overanalyze everything in life, and coming up with this list of 4 songs was one of those for sure. I definitely wanted to get something that wasn't discussed yet. So we have a couple of those. But Back to the Motor League's one of my favorite songs. I know it's been discussed a few times on this podcast.
Totally fine.
But a thing that I think is very interesting about it is the way I kind of relate to it on an almost satirical level, especially with the opening lines of this song. I was driving recently in the car with my girlfriend, and this came on, and like music was just playing low in the background and we were talking, but the first verse kicked off and there was like a lull in the conversation, and we don't have a lot of overlap in terms of music fandom. And if you talked to me 15 years ago, I would have thought that that was a big deal. And now that I'm 35, I've learned that that's an incredibly shallow barometer for like relationship success.
I agree.
But so like Chris starts singing like, I like to party fucking hard. I like my rock and roll the same. And she just kind of gave me this look like, not knowing the context of who the band is and what the song could mean. She's like, who are these idiots? Like, this is like straight up like, this just sounds like drunken, punk rock burnouts. And if you don't know the context of the song or the band, that's exactly what it sounds like, especially if like, I think I just skipped the song and moved on to something else. In that moment, I was like, oh yeah, I relate to this in that when you are, I assume that to some degree that verse is satirical. It might actually be genuine. I don't know, because there's this give and take of the message of the song of like, I'm going to do whatever I want, regardless of what fandom expects of me, and also what certain labels or producers or industry people expect of me. And it could just be like, I just want to have fun with this. We're going to play these shows and party and whatever. Or it's making fun of people who are like that. And because we all know that Propagandhi does take their messaging very seriously. So I've written articles that I think are saying very profound things that I then see in comments that people might be confused by, or maybe I could have given more context, or maybe I gave too much context and then it ruins the joke. So I relate to this song on that level, but also musically, it's just absolutely kick-ass, great melodies, good melodies that I think don't exist in a way on How to Clean Everything and Less Talk. And that's something that really draws me to it.
Amazing. Yeah. And I remember a conversation I had about this song last summer with Adam from the band Story of the Year, who had that massive giant hit single Until the Day I Die. And they're out there still playing.
They were like the first punk band I saw live.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Nintendo Fusion tour in high school. And it was like My Chemical Romance was one of the openers. Then Story of the Year was also on that bill, and a couple other bands.
So they're from St. Louis, my hometown.
Oh, nice.
And yeah. And so I went over to Adam's house and we recorded that conversation in person, and Back to the Motor League was one of his selections. And he was talking to me about how so much of this song is like about how he felt like about himself at a certain point in his life, where he's nice. The candy coated joy cam rock bands selling shoes for venture capitalists. He's like, whoa, there's like a lot of like us in this song. And so he took it as like on a really interesting level, because like the song is about bands that are kind of doing some stuff that like his band was kind of doing, and there was so many bands at the time period. And he loves the song as well. So like there's a really interesting aspect to that where it's like talking about how bands that were doing things that maybe Propagandhi would totally critique, like, I actually really like this song as well, because it makes them kind of like, turn the mirror on themselves and laugh at themselves a little bit. But the opening line, I like to party fucking hard. Chris, on his podcast, he's like talked about his own like going to the bar, getting drunk, like all of his things in his past where he was partying too. So there's probably a little bit of both. There's probably a little bit of making fun of himself and making fun of other people as well. In that, because Propagandhi is so effective about turning the camera on themselves to make fun of themselves almost first and foremost. Yeah.
And that's what I love about that. And like, I don't judge anybody for whatever their partying lifestyle is. Like, I've certainly gone through that in my younger years. And I think that dichotomy is what draws me towards the song. I can say, like, with my Hard Times articles, I would say about 90% of them the person being made fun of is me specifically. Like I'm making jokes about myself. It might be like, oh, woman loves blah, 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 or poser, blah, blah, blah. It's just things that I've noticed about myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there any truth to that Dark Throne in the grocery store article?
I can't remember what the specific song I heard in public was, but it was something that I loved as a kid. And it wasn't very like, it wasn't a super metal song. It might've been like Gin Blossoms, where I remember like recording off the radio to a cassette tape and like listening on the bus to school.
Hey, Jealousy.
Yeah. That was definitely the song. Oh no, am I losing you? Did my computer freeze?
Or can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Okay, we're back.
The Zoom window just went all white.
Oh, yikes.
Okay, well, we're back. Yeah. But I think I heard Hey Jealousy in the grocery store, and it just struck me as like, oh man, I used to love this song. And like, I bet this band put a lot of passion into it. And now it's like background filler at Ralph's while I'm like getting oatmeal. So then I just elevated it to the point of being a ridiculous black metal song that you would never hear.
Yeah.
I do love that song, and I love Dark Throne, but yeah.
Yeah, the whole like the way that hits you once in a while, those waves of I am aging, I have aged.
Yes.
And the darkness in there, and also the comedy in there, is really, really fun. So that's just where I take that. I'm like, I have aged, because
totally.
Like whenever you think about yourself, you still like oftentimes you still feel the same as you did when you were like 19 or 23, but then you have these like varying differences about how you physically feel, how you physically look, and your own mental health and your own experiences that you've lived in the last several years. And then all of a sudden that powerful feeling of I have aged, time has passed. It gets crazy, man. Like whenever I think about Today's Empire, Tomorrow's Ashes, I was like a senior in high school when that record came out, and now I'm going to be 40 in a few months, and it's like boom, and I'm still talking about the same record. It's ridiculous.
That happened with me recently. It felt like one night I went to sleep and all the punk music that I listened to sounded very current and modern, and then I woke up and it sounded 90s. Like it suddenly had a date attached to it. And it doesn't mean it's not still great, but I think we're kind of so far removed from people making music that sounds specifically like that and using those production techniques. And like same with hip hop. Like I have listened to rap my whole life, and one day you wake up and like, oh, old Jay-Z and Wu-Tang Clan sounds like of a very specific time and place, and it's not modern.
Right. Yeah, it's really super freaky. Yep. Existential crisis time.
Yep.
Everybody out there listening, go ahead and have yourself one of those right now while we transition to With Friends Like These. Who the fuck needs Cointelpro? This song has never been talked about on this podcast.
And I'm stunned. I'm stunned by that fact.
Well, and here's the thing. I got to give a little bit of attention to my friend Brad Thompson out there. Brad's a civil rights lawyer in Chicago. And years ago, at this point, 2 years ago, he was like, yeah, I want to be your guest on Cointelpro. And I'm like, great. And Brad and I actually went to a Propagandhi show together in Guelph, Ontario, like last spring. But we still have never recorded the Cointelpro episode. And it's just become this like running joke at this point, to where it's like, yeah, we've never talked about Cointelpro, but we really only have like 10 songs left that we've never covered, like as like a big full episode. So I do intend to put your Cointelpro segment in the Cointelpro episode. So this section will actually appear in 2 different episodes. Hooray for that. So
excellent. And you should definitely have somebody who's more educated than me when it comes to civil rights and activism.
Oh yeah. I'm getting an attorney who's very, very well versed in the history of Cointelpro to go into it in great detail. So never fear. The mind-boggling research will occur.
You're not going to get it with me.
No, that's fine. It's a Sunday morning. It's early. We're just hanging out and having a good time. I am not prepared to go there with the headspace I am currently in today. Today is all about fun. Fun is where it's at. So tell me a little bit about why you picked With Friends Like These. Who the fuck needs Cointelpro?
Okay. So my Propagandhi fandom kind of started in isolation, where I got these albums from the other DJs at the radio and I burned them, but not a lot of my friends who I shared music tastes with also got into Propagandhi. They tended to be more of like whether it was like emo or kind of the folk punk thing happening in the mid to late 2000s. So I just assumed that Cointelpro was one of those top Propagandhi songs up there with like Motor League, Speculative Fiction, Dear Coach's Corner. And then kind of over time, I realized like, oh, this is kind of a deep cut for them. Doesn't appear on a lot of set lists as far as I can tell. Not too many videos of them playing this. Not a lot of discussion about it that I could see online, which is weird because it's one of my favorite songs by them. And the meaning of the song has grown for me over time. Especially, I moved to Los Angeles a little over 9 years ago, and the rest of the country and world tends to think of Los Angeles as this super progressive oasis of America, where like, that's where they try all these new radical ideas. And then you get here, and if you start paying attention to local politics and activism, it's like a lot of people shooting themselves in the foot and a lot of disappointment, especially when it comes to like city council. There was
I followed that story.
Yeah. That is exactly what this song is talking about. It's like you get these people who run for city council with these messages of acceptance and progressive ideals and trying new things. And the moment they get ushered in, they just start voting to approve another helicopter for LAPD and like just disappointing you left and right. And man, this song really speaks to that, at least for me. It's kind of vague and abstract in the lyrics, but that's what I take away from it. And it's kind of cathartic to just blast this in the car and scream along to it. And it's like, yeah, we are good enough in terms of the progressive political spaces at shooting ourselves in the foot. We don't really need that much FBI intervention.
Yeah. Well, in the example that you just listed too about an LAPD helicopter really ties in nicely, because we have this lyric, overhead, bloodthirsty vultures circle patiently. And it fits that example perfectly.
Oh man, it's so dystopian and it's so unnecessary. And like, yeah, if you live in LA, you know the sound of helicopters overhead pretty much every day, and it gets old. It's unnecessary, mostly used to like incite a sense of surveillance and fear in largely marginalized neighborhoods. It's really messed up. So yeah, I think they really hit the nail on the head with this lyrically.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah. So, as everybody out there knows, we will be doing a massive deep dive into Cointelpro, but I did actually get to see them play this in 2021. Really? Yeah. They had it in one of their set lists at the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend trio of Winnipeg shows in October 2021 that I flew up for to see. So I actually saw them play this recently. So this song is an ongoing conversation within the band that they are keeping alive, you know? I
would love to see this live next time I see them. I've only seen Propagandhi once. I saw them, I can't remember if it was 2017 or 2018 at the Regent Theater in Los Angeles. They played with Reviver and Bad Cop. All three bands were incredible. But they didn't play Cointelpro. I think at the time it wasn't appearing on any set lists.
Gotcha. What did you, do you have any standout memories of that show, like songs or moments that you're just kind of like, that was the best?
So like, that was when my fandom was starting to hit a fever pitch, and I didn't know what to expect when it comes to set lists. And I was just like crossing my fingers, like, please play Speculative Fiction. And I think it wasn't the opener, but it was really early in the set list. And I was like, all right, I'm going to finish this beer quickly and like get down near the pit to experience this song. And then I'm a pretty tall, skinny guy. I get thrashed around in a pit. I'm not usually down there holding it down for the majority of a show. Yeah. I tend to linger towards the back. I also don't like to like block people's vision at concerts a lot. I'm 6'3", so if I'm up towards the front, somebody's vision is getting blocked, and it sucks, and I recognize that.
Dude, my girlfriend and I talk about this all the time. So I'm 6'5", she's 5'1". And so when we go to shows, we try to find a spot where I can stand with my back against a wall, and then so that I'm not in the way. But she also, like, we try to stand like where I'm against the wall and she's on a step where she has like a clearer sight line and I am not in front of everybody. We talk about this all the time, because what happens is if we go down into the middle of like the floor or something together, I wind up behind the only person in the whole building that's actually taller than me. And then so
every time it happens,
you have to have that experience as a tall person at shows where you get blocked to make you aware of your own physical size and stature to where you're like, wow, this is what I do to people all the time. So I am 100% down with you on this. And I am so glad to actually hear somebody else say that they position themselves carefully, because a person who's 5'2" spent the same amount of money on that ticket as you did.
Yeah, totally. I also wrote a Hard Times article about this phenomenon, and the title, it was an opinion piece, and it was, "I'm sorry I'm 6'3" and God wanted me to see concerts better than you." It's just like unnecessarily antagonistic.
Amazing. Well, you mentioned your favorite song just now, Speculative Fiction, going down into the pit. Let's move on to this one. So at the beginning of this episode, everybody heard you singing and performing Speculative Fiction, A Speculative Fiction, if you want to go with the full title. I tend to say Speculative Fiction, then people are always like, Greg, it's A Speculative Fiction. So let's talk about the cover first, and then we'll talk about like the meaning or the takeaways or whatever of the song, what it stands for to you as a thinking human being in this world. Tell me the story of your cover, which people heard at the very start of this episode. I want to get as nerdy and as technical into this as you possibly want to take it. So no detail is too nuanced. So tell me the story of your cover.
Let's do it. A Speculative Fiction is one of my favorite songs of all time, regardless of band. It is up there. I never skip it when it comes on. It always gets like my heart pacing so much faster, always singing along in the car. I didn't realize that until recently. When I was working on this cover, my girlfriend was like, this is an interesting song. It's like very complex. I'm like, yeah, but I think it's one of my favorite songs ever. I don't remember the first time I heard it. And I don't remember when I first started listening to Potemkin City Limits, which is my favorite Propagandhi album as referenced in the list. But when we started talking about doing the podcast, when I basically messaged you, was like, yo, I would love to be on the podcast. When I saw people tagging you in the comments, I was like, okay, I'll do a cover. I haven't done a guitar song in a while, in any capacity. And my first instinct was, I'll do a cover of Cointelpro. And then I could not figure out the timing of the intro. And I very quickly got frustrated. I was like, I'll do Speculative Fiction. At least timing wise, I understand how that song works. I wanted to do Cointelpro because I love the second half of that song, the jam of it. Yeah. But one gripe I have is it starts fading out way too early. Like the fade out is like a minute of it. I'm like, no, that's what I want to hear. So like when I listen to it, I'll slowly start turning up the volume. But anyways, I decided to do Speculative Fiction and realized about 5 hours into working on this song that maybe I bit off more than I can chew, but I did finish it. I'm kind of a weird taskmaster where I like to time myself doing kind of menial tasks. Like I'll time myself like doing the dishes just to see how long it takes. So I took kind of detailed logs.
Oh, good.
You can see my notebook up here for like all the different sessions and stuff. And it took me about 19 hours to make this cover.
Amazing.
I listened to one of the previous Speculative Fiction episodes, and somebody did a great stripped down cover, which was my first instinct. And I was like, well, I'm not going to top this stripped down cover. So I went the other direction. I was like, I'll just record the song as it is and add more stuff. So that's what I ended up doing. I added some lead guitar and some like synthy string sections to it, but it's pretty faithful. Usually if I do a cover, I try to change it up a bit, but this is just one of my favorite songs where like, I just wanted to play the damn song. I just wanted to do it like as if I were in a cover band playing it with friends. And that's kind of the angle that I went for. The singing was insanely difficult.
Yeah. So real quick though, before we talk about the singing, are the drums, it's just a programmed drums, right? Just
programmed in. And man, programming MIDI drums is really the doing your taxes of music making. I don't think it's anybody's preferred method for getting drums on a song, but like with a quick turnaround time and like not really having too many people that I know who played drums with a lot of free time off the top of my head, that it ended up being the way to go. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so let's get into the singing, because the singing is really, really interesting. You really made it your own. It was really fantastic because you start off and you don't give us like the super high range stuff at the beginning. Like you keep it like low, which was a really interesting choice, because then what you do is you go way high in the backing vocals. Like later on, you really give us this nice controlled delivery in the start, and then you really just get experimental with it. Tell me about your vocal take experience and how you experimented to land on this this formula that you wound up going with.
Yeah. So a lot of the choices were kind of born out of necessity, where in recording my own music, there have been parts that I've written for myself that I realized like, oh, I need to sing this higher than is very easy for me. And I know that in the course of recording, my voice is going to go out. So I have to pick and choose where I can go higher. And I'm like, okay, clearly I want it to be the climactic end. So I kind of wrote out the higher parts to be towards the end. And man, I don't think I could have done 2 more additional takes with the higher parts. So those were all saved for the end. I actually recorded them first, knowing that I could do the lower parts kind of even after my voice might start to go. But yeah, and there were also kind of harmonized parts that I wanted to get into there. And this is the first song with singing that I've made since moving to my new apartment in Los Angeles. And now I'm in a place where I share walls with other people. So I was kind of worried about like noisy neighbor complaints or kind of getting self-conscious. But after like the first takes, that kind of went out the window. And I was like, whatever, I need this to sound good. So just other people are gonna have to deal with this. Sorry. So I'm screaming about, the Battle of 1812. And my girlfriend's like, what is this song about? Like, and it's all out of order. So she doesn't even get the context of it. It makes even less sense from her perspective. But yeah, it was tough, but I don't love the sound of my singing voice. I think most people don't, but I'm to some degree, I'm proud of the way that I've come, where when I was like 18, I was so self-conscious about singing. Like I didn't even like to sing in the car by myself. I hated the sound of my voice so much. A large part of that was like all the bands that I listened to had super high voices, and I don't. Like I have a low voice. So
yeah, you have a radio voice.
Thank you. And a radio face. But but it took a long time to get comfortable with my voice and learning how it can work for me. And that only happened within the past few years. So yeah, vocals were tough, but I like what I ended up with as much as I can like the sound of my own voice.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed. What did you do? So you added some like noodly guitar parts and stuff like that. Like, tell me a little bit about that experimentation for the guitar. It's like very jammy. Do you know what I mean? There's almost like, Grateful Dead fishy, like little guitar licks put in there.
My favorite band of all time is Pink Floyd, which is not a very punk thing to say, but like I am obsessive about Pink Floyd. I've read so many biographies about them, and like I am bordering on stalkerish when it comes to just like having to know everything about everybody involved in that band. So that's probably where that sound comes from more than anything else. But also kind of in my own music making, part of my style is just, I would say, overdoing it with lead guitar. I just like it everywhere. Anywhere there's a lull, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna throw a lick over here, or like, oh, this verse, maybe I'll just play a guitar solo while I'm singing this verse. And that happened kind of midway through of this cover. I just can't get enough of like very uneducated kind of fake guitar shredding, which is my style.
Yeah. So there's nothing like a David Gilmour guitar solo. Like,
oh yeah.
There's just not these. Nobody can do like that guy the way he does it. So question, side tangent, give me your favorite Pink Floyd record and your least favorite Pink Floyd record.
Favorite Pink Floyd record is Metal, which is largely chosen because it has my favorite song of all time, Echoes, on there. It's the album they did right before Dark Side of the Moon, which has a lot of elements of Dark Side of the Moon, but I just love it as a work front to back. Least favorite is definitely from their 80s, 90s era. I'm going to say Momentary Lapse of Reason. And that's the one that has the Learning to Fly song, which is like David Gilmour bragging about his newfound passion for private air travel.
Yeah.
It's just really cringeworthy.
Have you ever done a Hard Times Pink Floyd crossover where a punk finds Pink Floyd and does some kind of article about that?
I'm trying to think if I've done any. I don't know if I've done Pink Floyd when it comes to Hard Times. There have been Pink Floyd jokes that have run on Hard Times, but
I believe in you.
Blanking on if I've done any of them. I don't know.
I believe in you here. I'm just going to put that kernel into the universe, and then I'll take 8% credit whenever you successfully land on that. So how many vocal takes are we listening to? Like if you were to like open up like your recording software, like what are we looking at if we were to look at your screen while listening?
8 tracks. I tend to double everything just to give myself kind of some cushion space, because I don't know if this is true, but in my mind, if you have 2 vocal tracks happening at the same time, as long as one of them is like hitting the right note, it kind of sounds like you're in the ballpark. So that's one of my go-to tricks when it comes to recording. But there's like the main low vocal, there's the high octave up vocal, and then there are 2 harmony tracks. And each of those are doubled, so that usually about 8 tracks. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like having people describe for listeners like what we would see if we were to look at your recording software like on your screen. Because one of my favorite things to do whenever I'm editing is to watch the cursor go through and the fade ins and the fade outs, and then like seeing where I like edited stuff. Because whenever you edit a big episode, like some of our episodes are over 4 or 5 hours long sometimes, and like seeing the tiny little surgical editing that goes into something like that's massive like that, it's always such an insanely strong sense of accomplishment whenever you look at the end of it. Like our Potemkin City Limits episode, it was like a puzzle that I had woven together for 5-hour long file. And I'm like, I feel really proud of this, that I put together this giant puzzle that people now get to listen to in a seamless fashion and really have no idea what it looks like on my screen.
Yeah. As I get older, and with regards to my music making, I'm trying to be a little less perfectionist, because I think it only serves to get in the way of my own progress. So with this, there's actually probably fewer cuts than is typical for somebody recording a song with so many tracks. But like, especially when it came to the guitars, I tried to do it in just a few handful of takes. And I think I had to punch in maybe like 2 or 3 spots. Like, there's that one chord. It's the thing that is played during Nowhere to Run, Nowhere to Hide. And it has this crazy stretch on the fretboard that's so hard to get right and so hard to like let all the notes ring out clear. And actually a part of the reason why I chose Speculative Fiction is because there's that YouTube video of Sue Lynn's audition where they play it, and you get a lot of good, clear view of what is happening with both Chris and Sue Lynn's hands when they're playing. And like also on this thing, you can see like I had to sit down and tab out what that part was, because like I just couldn't figure it out. And if you look online at the tabs, it's just all over the place and pretty inaccurate. But that is the hardest part of the song, getting that C chord. Anybody who's tried to learn it knows what I'm talking about. It's brutal.
I love it. What does this song make you think about, like with the lyrical content? What do you envision? What do you visualize? Tell me your thoughts on this one.
Kind of similar to Motor League. It's interesting in that when you present kind of this, again, like somewhat satirical proposition without a lot of context behind it, it makes you think a lot of different things. Where when I was first listening to this, I was like, oh, this is just like satirizing and making fun of the typical saber rattling that happens in the lead up to international conflicts. And I do think that's kind of the point of the song. But then there's a part of me that wonders, like, there could be a kernel of taking out your frustration with the United States specifically, because it's from the perspective of Canada and this imagined conflict between the United States and Canada. And I bet there's some catharsis in being a Canadian and just like getting to scream at the United States of America for once. So I'm guessing that the true intention leans more towards the former, of just kind of generally poking fun at the things that countries say and the kind of the slogans that take hold. A lot of this resonates. Like, I was a teen when the lead up to the Iraq war and that all was happening, and like a lot of similar things said then. And it's weird. It's weirdly cathartic to shout along to this in the car, knowing you're making fun of it. But it does make me wonder if there have been people at Propagandhi shows who are maybe shouting along to "You can pry my gun from my cold dead hands," they might be
being
genuinely
serious.
feeling that. Yeah. And that's a thing that we run into, like at the hard times. There are people who maybe aren't sharing the article out of the satirical aspect, but either don't get it or don't care to get it, and are kind of sympathizing with whatever the villains are that we're making. And as the author, like, you don't have control over that. You can try to do your best, and people still might take it one way or the other.
Yeah. It's an interesting song too, with the connection to where I actually live. So here in Buffalo, we have War of 1812 Black Rock historic markers for the Battle of Buffalo, the Commodore Perry Naval Yard, the Battle of Skajakwita Creek, Military Road. There's war sites, the burning of Buffalo, Squaw Island. All of these are War of 1812 sites that are like right here in town within just a couple of miles of where I live. Mm-hmm. And so whenever I'm like riding my bike through Buffalo and I, go past these like War of 1812 sites, I'm always like, the Battle of 1812 lives in our hearts. And I just like drive right through the intersection where there's like a historic marker right on the side of the road,
Yeah. I think it's
a good time.
Man, that is such a good lyric and an astute observation of how whenever these conflicts start, the immediate thing that kind of leaders do is like, go, what happened in the past that we can now like mine for patriotism?
Yeah,
man, it's just so smart. The lyrics of all these songs are incredibly smart, but like this one in particular, the sort of narrative web that is woven through it is something that I love kind of the 90s Fat Records and Epitaph, like that whole scene. But not many of those bands got that really kind of specific literary narrative threads going through their songs. Like, I would say maybe the Lawrence Arms have them in sort of a more kind of, I don't know if artistic is the way, but kind of fictional. Oh, perfect.
I got a Lawrence Arms t-shirt on right now.
Yeah, great. That's also a top 10 band for me. But they tend to be of the more kind of like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but less rooted in history, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas Propagandhi has that quite significantly. And it's just impressive. All the things that you learn when you look up the lyrics to a Propagandhi song.
Question: what's your favorite Lawrence Arms record?
It's a toss up between "O Calcutta," which was in that binder that my fellow DJs lent me when I was on the radio.
Nice.
And the most recent one, Skeleton Coast. Like, nice. I can't stop listening to it. I do all the time. I think when I discover a band or when I get into a band, I think there's something within me that wants to favor the most recent work. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it just works out that way.
Yeah.
But I've gone back and listened to Lawrence Arms, like early stuff. And like, I like it, but if I'm in the mood to listen to Lawrence Arms, it's usually "O Calcutta" and beyond. Yeah.
"O Calcutta" is my personal favorite. It's a 10 out of 10 record for me. I actually used my song-by-song podcast experience and recently I was a guest on the Talking Records podcast with my friend Jed Dion, and we did a track-by-track breakdown of "O Calcutta" on his podcast.
Oh, I'm going to go listen to that.
You really should. Like, I spent so much time like thinking about "O Calcutta," diving into the lyrical content, revisiting Brendan's podcast, Road to the Skeleton Coast with Tim Crisp. Did you listen to the Road to the Skeleton Coast?
I didn't know that even existed.
Okay, you got to start listening to this today. I swear to you, it's going to take the next month of your life, and you're going to be so happy. It's called Road to the Skeleton Coast. They did a full Brendan Kelly discography breakdown, every slapstick record, every Broadway's release, every Lawrence Arms record, every solo record, every Falcon record. They talked about every single one on a track by track basis, and they did all of it. So every single Brendan Kelly release is represented on that podcast, and it's absolutely wonderful. And I promise you, it is worth your time. But
I wrote it down. Shout out to Brandon Kelly, contributor to the Hard Times.
Brendan Kelly also contributed Unscripted Moments, a podcast about propaganda, Rock for Sustainable Capitalism episode.
Yes.
That is our most controversial episode of all time as well, because on that episode, we did not successfully attribute to Have and Have Not, that Billy Bragg song, to Billy Bragg. We just were talking about the Lars Fredriksson from Rancid cover version, and we made fun of it a lot. And we never said it's a Billy Bragg cover. So I got 200 emails over the course of the podcast about how we never talked about Billy Bragg. And Brendan came down on a really specific argument in there, which he said what he believed about, related to the Fat Mike, Chris Hanna, Propagandhi, Fat Records sort of feud within the liner notes of Potemkin City Limits, about Rock for Sustainable Capitalism. And so Brendan was talking a lot about what it was like to be friends with Fat Mike during the era that Potemkin came out, where, Propagandhi put a picture of Fat Mike with John Kerry inside the liner notes. And so Brendan is a really, really awesome guest on that Rock for Sustainable Capitalism episode, because Brendan said his part, and then Chris Hanna directly replied to what Brendan said on his Patreon podcast. So there was like a conversation between the two podcasts that happened because of Brendan Kelly. So I love Brendan Kelly. Yeah. He's one of my favorite songwriters and like just all around like interesting guy.
Totally.
So I love that you love the Lawrence Arms, and I love that Oh Calcutta is your number one, basically, because it's mine too.
The word I was struggling for was literary, whereas Lawrence Arms go a little more literary. Propagandhi is a little more historical and political.
Very well said.
Not that anybody was waiting for my correction or clarification.
No, that actually works really well. That's a really interesting little addition. Also, let's jump forward.
Okay.
We got your last selection here. Lower order, A Good Laugh from Victory Lap. You in your Hard Times article ranked Victory Lap at the time of the writing of the article. May change, as you said. You ranked it as number 3. How do you feel about Victory Lap as a whole?
I absolutely love Victory Lap. And that's the album that took me from being like, oh yeah, I'm a fan of Propagandhi, to like a diehard nerdy, like to a degree that's not cool anymore. Like Victory Lap did that for me. And I picked this song because I remember the first time listening to Victory Lap, I was in my old apartment. I listened through and it blew my mind. I loved it. But this song in particular was the one that stood out to me as being like having the most memorable moments. I would say musically and lyrically. There's one line in the song lyrically that really resonates with me. And, it's just a great song, and it's kind of a bizarre song. It's a song that's almost the least like any other Propagandhi song, in that once you get past the intro, it's primarily clean guitars. It's like written in a major key. It doesn't get super heavy after the kind of Black Sabbath-y old Metallica intro. It's very different, and it's very Victory Lap.
Yeah. It may be one of the most unique Propagandhi songs in the entire discography. Nothing else sounds like this in their entire catalog.
And it just has such frank, straightforward singing and lyrics that really just jumped out at me the first time I listened. But man, the opening story about the hunting trip.
Yeah.
Bizarrely echoed almost verbatim a story that my dad told me when I was a kid. Growing up in southwestern Pennsylvania, hunting is a huge thing. And a lot of my friends went. And I remember my dad telling me a story. I was very young. And he said, when I was a kid, I went hunting one time. I think like his cousin and uncles took him out. And he said he shot a squirrel. And instantly, he said, I felt so damn bad that I decided at that moment I was never going to hunt again. And like the rest of the day, he just like intentionally was like missing shots and stuff to not do anything. And he told that to me when I was a kid. Yeah. And I'm a, very sensitive person. And I knew in that moment, like, oh, if I go hunting, I'm going to feel exactly like that. I have no interest. So like hearing that in that song, like very kind of instantly transported me back to childhood. But it's actually the line during that where he says, an essential rite of passage for those co-signed here with a dick.
Yeah.
And that really like struck me as like, I am a cisgendered heterosexual male, but I've never really gelled with a lot of the sort of things that are expected of that kind of identity, of sort of the toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
I have hated team sports my whole life. I quit everything as soon as I could. My parents were like, great, we don't have to take you to practice. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
But like, I can't think of any other band who have kind of laid bare how old that gets. If you're somebody who doesn't subscribe to those sort of patterns of behavior, and Propagandhi does, and that line in particular really just resonates with me.
Yeah, it resonates with me too, because I actually did go hunting. My dad's a huge hunter. He's hunted his entire life and he loves it, and he does it with his friends frequently.
Yeah.
There is a gun safe in my parents' basement that must weigh 2,500 pounds. And it's just filled with weapons of every variety that you can possibly imagine. And whenever I was a kid, I did like the NRA gun safety courses and like hunter safety courses as like an 8-year-old or whatever, you know? And I had like a compound bow and arrow that I would shoot in my backyard, and like with these targets set up in our yard, because our yard backed up to woods. And when I was like 7 or 8, my dad took me on my first hunting trip, and it was below freezing. So for anybody in Celsius world, it would have been about -5 to -8 degrees Celsius. And so it was below freezing, and I was on the ground, and my dad was in a tree stand, and my feet went numb an hour or two after sitting there motionless in the freezing cold waiting for an animal to come by. And I was so cold and so unhappy, and no animals ever came by. And then we sat there for like 8 straight hours, and I was just so unhappy that I never had the desire to go back again. And I think that it was kind of a really disappointing experience for my dad, because like he lost out on this way to connect with me that he was hoping I would have resonated with, because then after that, he started going hunting with my cousins because they were super into it. And then he just flat out stopped asking me if I wanted to go because he knew I wasn't going to go. So he like connected with a few of my cousins in a way that he kind of like hoped he would connect with me, but it just wasn't something that worked for me.
It's nice, at least he recognized that he wasn't going to get that out of you. And it sounds like it didn't become like a contentious thing or a thing that you were forced to do.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness, because it really could have created a lot of problems for me at home if it would have been like a thing where it's like, oh, you're a dude. You got to go out there. You got the dick. You're going out there. You got to do it because that's what we are. That's what we do. You know, and
I hate
very
all
fortunate.
That shit. Yeah.
Really fortunate.
Yeah. Even those things kind of trickle into like sports fandom, which I know has been discussed through the lens of hockey a lot on the podcast. And like, I'm a hockey fan. I don't follow it as closely as I did, but there was a period of about 10 years where I was a rabid Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I still have my Malkin jersey in the closet for, whenever necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, even the world of like sports fandom has a lot of that the older I get, just the less I want to surround myself by. Again, that's not to judge anybody who's still into that. Like you have to find your enjoyment where you can in life. I get it. But yeah, it's nice to hear somebody sing about this, because the topic of kind of rejecting masculinity does not come up a lot in music anywhere.
Yeah. I love that they do it so well, and it's a recurring thing throughout their records. You know what I mean? We got Fuck Machine, we got Refusing to Be a Man, we got Less Talk More Rock. You know what I mean? So this is not something that has not been addressed throughout the duration of the band. So this is almost like kind of like one of those things that fits in like almost like a mini series within their songs.
Yeah.
It's a recurring mini series from decade to decade that kind of comes up and pops up in little places.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you think about this song as well. A lot of people think about this song as like the song on Victory Lap about animals, but it's very much about masculinity as well. Like there's very much two plots at play here. Yeah.
And it does that angle so well. And that when I was thinking about this song, it reminds me of the movie A Clockwork Orange, and that which is Stanley Kubrick, very kind of horrific film about like crime and morality and justice. But when it comes to the filmmaking, that movie does this interesting thing where a lot of the kind of acts of violence and the most jarring and upsetting things, traditionally, when you see those in a movie, it's like dark, shadowy lighting and this kind of creepy underscored music. In A Clockwork Orange, it's bright lighting, it's singing in the rain is playing, it's not scary music, and it really enhances the horrors of it. And I feel like this song does that with the kind of clean guitars and major key. And if you swapped out the lyrics, this could be a very, very different song, but it's describing this like horrific kind of capitalist animal farming hatchery situation and the cruelty of the perspective behind it, which I think it works better with this music than it would with like any other of the riffs or songwriting musically on Victory Lap.
Yeah, the way you pointed out that it's in a major key and it's very bright and very cheery, but then it's one of the darkest lyrical contents on the entire record. Amazing. Truly.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The one thing, I'm not great at A, hearing lyrics, and B, parsing out meaning of them. Like I tend to I'll get my initial idea lodged in there very quickly, and it's hard to deter myself from. I don't know if you have any thoughts of this, but like the booze-fueled rage that gets mentioned throughout this song, what do you think that means? Do you think that's like from the Chris or from the activist perspective of somebody who's so upset by this that like the drinking helps, or is it from the perspective of somebody working in this hatchery or whatever that like that's kind of the coping mechanism they have to work there? I don't know.
Yeah, and it really could be anything. Like if you we went really deep into this on our Nailing Descartes to the Wall episode that we did ages ago, where we actually researched the injury statistics and reporting from people who work in environments like that, like in animal slaughterhouses, and talking about how working in those types of environments is very much almost like an act of desperation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing fun. There's nothing joyful. There's nothing fulfilling. You are surrounded by tendons and muscle and blood and like howling and screeching all day, every day. And so imagine if you had that as your only source of income and you go home at the end of the day after experiencing that, and then you just stand in the shower. Like I would imagine that you would just start crying probably in the shower. And then how do you fall asleep that night after you've like, pictured yourself like slicing pig throats all day long? You just pound some shots of Jack Daniels, and then you fall into a drunken stupor. I mean, it's a really spiraling kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, totally. I believe it. And I like the way that the lyrics are written, and that like it at least got me to think deeper about the perspective and what the different meanings could mean. And I think Propagandhi is great at that. There's a way that you can write a song and get very, very specific with things that's almost a cop-out. And Propagandhi never does that. Like the specifics aren't about a cop-out, but I feel like I was really into kind of indie rock and stuff in the late 2000s and early 2010s. And that was like a huge thing of like kind of drilling in on specific imagery in a way that I think was meant. It was a way to be like artful in a way that you couldn't really challenge. Cause like, oh, well, I'm just talking about this thing that you don't really understand. That's on you for not knowing. And it's a thing that I think about when songwriting a lot. I don't write that many songs. I have a pretty slow trickle of output, but when I do, it's like all these thoughts are in my mind when doing so. Yeah.
Awesome.
But they nailed it.
I love this one. I'm so glad that you picked it, because this is another one that we've never gotten around to yet. And not for anything specific. We've done a lot of episodes about, the animal industrial complex, and it just sort of turns into one of those ones that just is like, oh man, I did Purina Hall of Fame. I did Nailing Descartes. I did Apparently I'm a PC Fascist. I'm just like, it's just this, we did Humane Meat. Our Humane Meat episode is arguably our grossest one that we went into. So it's just this topic that really got to me after a while. So this episode, that song has never been covered on this podcast either.
Yeah. Yeah.
But oh well,
I get it.
now it is. So, well, John, I'm super pumped that you were that you went through this harrowing process of creating this speculative fiction cover.
It was really fun. It was very, very fun, and I hadn't worked on something like that in a while, so it felt good to boot up my guitar amp and get it raging, and probably make a statement to my neighbors.
I love that you documented as well how long it took. And I love that you said specifically 19 hours because, this is a very time consuming project that I have on my hands as well. And so I'm glad that you really made a point of saying how long it took, because I think it's important for people to understand that all of the entertainment and the media and the music that they consume on a day-to-day basis to like get through their days for some fun entertainment is so much work and labor that goes into it. And it's all a labor of love, and it's all worth it. But I'm just really glad that you went into so much depth on that.
Oh yeah, totally. 19 hours sounds like a lot, but most of it is fun. There's always a point in the midway. I'm sure you've experienced this when like editing an episode where you're like, what have I gotten myself into? Yeah. Where it's like, you're so deep into it that you're committed, but you're still so far away from the end that it's like kind of depressing. Yeah. Or like, I only had like a few guitar tracks, and then I still had to build out like everything in the song, which the nice thing was it was all written for me already. Like I didn't have to worry about making that many decisions artistically. It was just a matter of getting it done. But it was fun. And I haven't learned that many new songs on guitar in a while. It's usually me either writing things or just playing for the fun of it. Right. And sitting down and learning a song and trying to get it right is a very different mind space approaching music in general, but specifically the guitar. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so John, I've loved our chat. Love your writing that you're doing at Hard Times. It's really amazing that you've been in McSweeney's as well. Thank you. I've been a McSweeney's reader for many years. Oh yeah. And I love that you did this cover. I'm so excited that it's on this episode. Can you tell people where to find your work if they want to sort of follow along with what you're doing, but also where to get your music? Because that's where they can directly get the speculative fiction cover. Sure. Yeah. JohnDanek.com. I just relaunched a personal website, so that has links to my writing and my music. I think I need to update it to add speculative fiction because that just went live like yesterday, I think. But also at JJ Danek on the various social networks, Twitter and Instagram. And then, if you just type in Danek, you should find my music, or you'll find the DJ from Paraguay who goes by the same name, or possibly the teenager in Poland who goes by the same name and posts videos of him on YouTube smoking weed. So, I should be towards the top, but you might have to sift through a few results first. Yeah, well, I'm also got your album titles here. We got 4 lackadaisical songs of a dubious origin. We've got A Town for You and Me. We've got John Danek is Not a Poser. And then a speculative fiction originally by Propagandhi does show up on your johndanek.com music section, but there's no cover art yet, and there's no link directly to it. So I'm assuming that'll be coming in the coming days. Got to add that. Yeah. You can see I come from like the 2000s Screamo school of titling things with obnoxiously long titles, and I won't stop, and I don't apologize for it. I think that you should say that you come from the Dillinger 4 long naming tradition. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it definitely exists in punk as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, amazing. Well, John Danek, super pumped that you were here. Thank you so much for joining me and chatting about these tunes and your cover. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I love the podcast, and thank you for making the podcast. I love these outlets where people can get really deep onto music. I love listening to them, and it was a blast chatting with you about this. Thank you, John.
Iron curtain drawn across the 49th parallel. Cut all diplomatic ties as we expel all American dignitaries and issue one nationwide travel advisory for any others left inside. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The burnout shells of southbound traffic lane strewn along the cold stretch of the interstate, still visible below the chart remains. Pax Americana place. Those stupid fucking laser pucks were just the start. And why you may stand 6 full cubits and a span. A shepherd slinging 5 stones in our hand. The battle of 1812 lives in our hearts. Care if we're destroyed, we'll never capitulate. We'll take the whole fucking world down with us in flames. Just a speculative fiction, no cause for alarm. We've got a good 15 years left. Till united we stand.